Welcome back, everybody, to JH Consulting. And today we have another one of our advisors. Last week we had Luann, and today we have Christy. Christy, tell us who you are.
My name is Christie Peterson, and I am the advisor for basically every sport that we advise on besides gymnastics. So I do everything from aquatics, which is one of my main things I focus on. So diving, swimming, water polo, to lacrosse, hockey, track and field. Oh goodness, like the list goes on and on. I've had softball, volleyball. So I get to have a lot of fun because every week I get different sports and get to talk about different things. I am also the advisor for college admissions and essays for JH Consulting. And essay advising is one of my passions, as is the college admissions advising, because I really get to know my clients. We look for exactly the right fit for them. And we have a lot of fun doing it. So that's what I do in a nutshell. It's pretty diverse, but I do all of that.
That's great. I think a lot of parents and families don't realize they're working so hard just to get their athlete to their events, their meets in high school, whatever sport they're in, and then hopefully through the recruiting process, and then this all kind of comes up, right? So as far as
Yes.
admissions and the academic part of it, but it actually can be it's not so much usually for gymnasts because they're pretty hardcore in, honors and AP. Not always, but pretty much. But I think a lot of sports, they get to the point where they actually have to dig in and see if they have the requirements for the NCAA to be eligible to be an athlete, Division one, two, or three. And then they realize they don't. So we don't want that to happen, right? So I think this
Right.
is a really important piece of JH Consulting. And we like to start by ninth grade or in gymnastics level nine, for example. But usually ninth grade, 10th grade is fine. But because we go through a lot of this stuff we don't as individual advisors do all the things that you can do and that much better, more of an expert. But I think every parent needs to hire you in ninth grade to be sure what they're looking at for the future is going to work for being a student athlete in college. In fact, I just saw a video today, and the guy on there, I think it's volleyball, maybe he's advises or some other sport. And he said that don't be afraid to ask the hard questions and to walk right into your guidance counselor's office and say, um, I want to be a student athlete in college. And I need to know that.
Absolutely. And do it early. Do it
Yeah, that's what
freshman
he was
year.
saying.
hmm
You
Even if it feels like, oh gosh, maybe I'm being presumptuous or whatever,
right.
walk in and say, I want to be prepared in case I'm able to go this path.
Yes. And not to put down guidance counselors at schools, but typically there's only one at each school that's really focused on this, takes classes, and really studies it. So it's
hmm
important to find that person too. But if not,
Yeah.
we have Christy, who, okay, why
Yes.
don't you share what you learned, what you said you put together today in regards to the differences between college admissions and the NCAA admissions? Is that what
Yeah.
you
So
Mhm.
yesterday I was meeting with a client, and this client's very young. And
Mm,
so we were talking, what happens if you don't do your sport? What happens
mhm,
if you do
mhm.
enter college as a recruited athlete? And so we went through a lot of the differences between college admissions and NCAA eligibility
Mhm.
because they're similar, very similar, but they are different. And honestly, there's so much to it. When I'm working with a client, every single client, we go through a different process. And even for each school, sometimes
Yep.
I'll say, you know what, I think you need a little more here or a little more there because individual situations can change the whole outlook on something. And so a student might be really, really far advanced in math, say,
Mhm.
but maybe they're have only taken two history courses and we say, hey, this is a little more of an elite school. We might want to have at least three history courses. Basically, you're going to want those main subjects. You're going to want the math, the English, 4 years of English for sure, at
Hmm.
least 3 years of math for NCAA. Now, when we're talking about college admissions, many colleges are going to want to see, and many majors are going to want to see 4 years.
Hmm.
Now, if a client has taken AP Chem or sorry, AP Calc BC, maybe their junior year, they say, do we really need 4 years? No and yes, depending on what other students at your high school are doing, because that's really what you are judged against is what, first and foremost, what other students at your own high school are doing.
Hmm.
But then it does broaden, especially for those really elite schools.
Okay.
And for some of those majors, engineering, business, some of the more demanding majors, they want to see calc. I've got a lot of students who are doing multivariable calculus in high school.
Wow.
But then we have other students in other schools that if you finish pre-calc, you're doing okay. So
Hmm.
that it really, really depends on what you're looking for. But with the NCAA, this is where it all gets so convoluted. With the NCAA, they want those 3 years of math, but then they want 4 additional years of different subjects. Math can be one of those. So if you took 4 years of math, that takes one additional course year and you can put it towards those 4 additional course years that they want.
Hmm.
Um, Science is another interesting one.
Hmm.
Every school, college admissions, NCAA both want 2 years. NCAA wants at least 1 year of lab. Most universities want 2 years of a lab at least,
Hmm.
but really 3 years is recommended for most. And they're going to want that biology, physics, calculus.
Hmm.
Um, sorry, calculus, not calculus, chemistry. I'm getting my C's mixed up today. Biology, physics, chemistry. Those are the three they're going to want to see. Now, AP Environmental Science, another great class, but that should be an additional one most of the time.
Hmm.
Unless you're really going into something that's heavy, like say you wanted to be English communications. Some of those majors they aren't going to be so specific on wanting to have each one of those three main sciences. But just something to keep in mind. History and social science, another thing very similar between the two, 2 years minimum. But
Hmm.
in the United States, most students have 3 years because they're getting that government and econ, they're
Hmm.
getting world and American history. And so that once again is another course that on NCAA can count as the additional year. Now, what the NCAA though requires is the 10-7 rule. So 10 of your 16 core courses need to be completed before your seventh semester of high school.
Hmm.
And this is what can hang students up sometimes. So
Okay.
this is one of those things we want to make sure, that maybe if you did an online class in math and it took a year and a half, you still might catch up by
Hmm.
senior year and be back ahead by doing maybe a community college class in a semester or whatever. But it can mess up that NCAA eligibility. So we want to make sure that the progression is in the right time frame.
Hmm.
Um, and of those 10 courses, seven need to be in English, math, and science.
Wow.
So these are the little things that you're going to want to talk to your high school counselor about and say, I just need to make sure I'm on that right path.
Yeah. And it starts in ninth grade. I agree with you.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah. And that whole path starts in ninth grade. And math is another thing we want to just keep an eye on,
Okay.
depending on certain majors, and make
Okay.
sure that's going in the right direction for the college admission side.
Okay. What are you seeing are the new trends? We've come out of COVID and
Yes.
we know things have evolved and changed a bit. What are you seeing?
Yeah. Okay, well, I took some notes on this because there are a lot of information's coming out right now. Um, Distinct applications this year on the Common App rose by 4%,
Hmm.
which, in years past, this was kind of a year that they thought admissions could potentially decline just because of population
Oh.
numbers.
Hmm.
And so to see that that went up by 4% for the distinct applications, that's distinct people applying. That's an interesting trend. The total number of applications went up by 7 to 9%, somewhere in that area this
Wow.
year, according to the Common App.
Hmm.
So that's, every year we're seeing more and more, but if you keep compounding that 7 to 9%, we are, we're just getting into a
Mhm.
situation where it's becoming more and more difficult to get those college acceptances, especially with more and more applicants applying to so many schools. You can, on the
Hmm.
Common App, you can apply to 20 schools. However,
Wow.
now you could use the Coalition app. And this doesn't happen often, but I do see some students who are applying to more than 20 schools
Hmm.
because maybe they're in a program like musical theater or something like that that's really difficult to get into, and they just
Mhm.
don't know that they're going to get into any of their first top choices. So they're applying by using both applications. But that's, a lot of extra applications, but also a lot of applications that are acceptances that are not going to be used by these students. So
Okay.
it's a situation that the colleges have to figure out, but also it's something my my student athletes and student just regular admissions clients, we've got to think about that.
Right.
Like, how many applications are they going to be getting? And, how is that affecting their admissions process? Now, early action, early decision also
Mhm.
significantly went up this year. So that's another trend.
Wow.
And that's been kind of the last, I would say, 3 years that's
Hmm.
exploded. And early decision is binding. You can only do one. Early EA, early acceptance, early application. That one you can, most schools you can apply to more than one EA and you just hear back sooner. Or you get deferred to regular decision, which
Mhm.
is another huge trend this year.
Mm.
So many students just getting a deferral to regular decision.
Hmm.
Now, sometimes they want to see your grades from that fall semester of senior year before really making a decision on you. But oftentimes, too, these universities are getting so many applications, they
Hmm.
simply aren't getting through them.
Hmm.
And so they're saying, we need a little more time on our end to go through this bulk of students and maybe some of the very, very top students, in that 75th percentile and above are going to get those acceptances early on. And then they're going to kind of defer that 50 to 75% and say, let's look at our whole applicant pool as we get closer to that. Um, this applications at the Southern public flagships,
Hmm.
huge, way up, year over
Wow.
year right now.
Hmm.
Those are up. Um, and this is an interesting one. Apps with SAT and ACT scores being submitted rose 11% this year over last year.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Yes. And so we've all, we've been kind of watching this over the last couple of
Mhm.
years that, hey, those numbers, you're going to want to really don't sell yourself short by not taking the SAT and ACT.
Mhm.
Not only do many schools want it again,
Mhm.
but it can also be instrumental in getting merit money. And
Right.
so there are some schools that you need that SAT score in order to be eligible for merit money.
Mhm.
So I tell all my clients, let's go for it. If it doesn't work out for you, study, do your best, but don't put so much pressure on yourself that you're going to
Right.
just be really worried about it. But let's try. Let's do our best and try because we really might want those numbers
Mhm.
to boost our application or to get that merit money. So the fact that it rose that much is significant this year. So that's a pretty big trend. Back to the early action, early decision. At some of the most selective schools, those numbers went up, Emory, 21%.
Wow.
That's how much it went up this year. 15% at Boston College and Northwestern, 10% at NYU. That's
Wow.
a lot of extra
Mhm.
early application, early decision. I thought in the past that we were already that was significant. And
Hmm.
so now I would say, even the clients I work with, which I am, when I start working with clients, say over the summer, if it's just an admissions client,
Mhm.
I say, hey, let's get to going early on this and let's get those
Mhm.
early applications in because it's nice to know in December or January instead of waiting all the way
Mhm.
till March and having to make that decision really quickly.
True.
But in the same idea here, athletes, they're typically going to want them to be applying early, either early decision, you know, it, if they don't require early decision, they just want those applicants in early.
Okay.
Division 3 likes their early decision for a lot of the athletes.
Okay, so let's back up just for a second and be really clear so people aren't confused because the bulk of our clients are gymnasts, but I
Yes.
want everybody to know that Christy works with anyone else that reaches out to us in a different sport. And she advises them in the sport of getting recruited as an athlete. And then those type of schools that have those type of sports are not what the other advisors are trained in. So she's speaking in regards to a lot of sports that she advises, or just kids who want to hire her. They don't even have to be in a sport. So she does both. And she
Yeah.
said that in the
Hmm.
beginning. But gymnastics, the trend is
Yes.
you get recruited. Um, so they usually in your junior year, you say yes or no. You go on your visits, your junior year, you say yes or no. Then the coach and their department in our sport take over and they help you apply to the colleges, tell you when you should, um, tell you what majors you should be aware of, that you should be applying to the university, like some of the schools are like that. Now, the Ivies are different for gymnastics. Those are where the every gymnast typically is also working with the coach on their application and admissions, but not like writing an essay, those kinds of things. Christie, then they move over to Christie and she helps them with perfecting their essays. So we really are a
Hmm.
team effort. There's a lot going on here. So we have our regular, just everyday person who's trying to get admitted to college someday. Then we have unique sports that she works in aquatics, but she's done rowing, she's done baseball, she's done cheer,
Hmm.
she's done acrobatics and tumbling, she's done any other sport besides gymnastics, really. And she helps
Yep.
those kids with not only the admission size, but their sport, trying to get recruited. And then the rest of our advisors pretty much do the bulk of gymnasts, which is a lot of our clients. And those girls typically have someone hand holding them through admissions. Not always, but typically. And then
Yeah, and there's a lot of pre-reads, the pre-reads
yes,
too. The pre-read
yes,
process is very helpful for
yes,
most of our athletes.
yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
And we have quite a few clients who want the stronger academic schools. So it's not just the Ivies, but
Yes.
a lot of others. And if it's an issue, I'll send them over to Christy if they need some additional information or, like I said, help with their essay. So
Hmm.
there's a lot we're talking about here that, you might fit in one track or another. In regards to this kind of information. But I think what Christy's
Yeah.
trying to say is you've got to go in ninth grade, whether you're sure or not, if you're going to end up doing sports in college, go in, make sure they know you have some kind of desire, and then make sure that they're leading you properly. If you have questions, you can hire Christy. She would be able to help you with that as well. But the hard part is, most athletes don't know which college is going to want them as an athlete until down
Yes.
the road, right? So that's where it gets kind of tricky. So I think what Christy's
Yeah.
trying to say, you may as well do everything possible to make you as marketable as possible to all the schools if, meaning stronger academic, mid, and maybe realistic. You might as well, do that. So I just,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's better to be prepared early on and
Hmm.
be in a better position. It's never bad to be overqualified
Right,
for these colleges.
right. That's
So,
all very good. So, what are your thoughts on different majors? I know at UCLA, for example, I don't remember exactly, but like a lot of those gymnasts have to go into a certain major their freshman year, or they won't, they know they have to get in. Even if they're
yeah.
wanted as an athlete, there's not enough room, right? So that
Yeah.
can be very interesting. And then they can move into a different major later. But
Hmm.
what do you notice about majors and any new trends or information?
I get asked this a lot.
Hmm.
by my athletes as well as by just the average student who's not an athlete coming to me. Many schools admit by major, but many don't.
Right.
And so that's something that we research ahead of time. But when you get to some of these selective schools,
Hmm.
if you go in picking, say, bio tends to be
Hmm.
really impacted. It's a heavy pre-med
Yeah.
major. Um, Engineering can be extremely difficult.
Hmm.
Business schools, the top business schools, very difficult to get into.
Hmm.
So, what we do when I am working with a client, we research, are they admitting by major? If they
Hmm.
are, and if those majors are impacted, if we applied to something different, how easy is it to transfer into that major?
Hmm.
At some schools, like, okay, Indiana is a good example. Their Kelly School of Business
Hmm.
can be very difficult to transfer into. Um, so you want to be aware of what you're getting into at the school when you're applying. If I don't get this major, would I be able to move into it in the future? So I talk to my clients a lot about what are the majors that are similar?
Hmm.
What would work for what you want to do in your future if it's not that main impacted major? For instance, I've had a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but a few clients who really want to be pre-med who have gone into certain impacted, like UC's, Cal Poly's a good example here, as nutrition majors. And so it can be very similar, but it's not necessarily that highly impacted bio. And then often they can switch
Okay.
over into bio. So those are just things that we look at, we take into all of that into account because you don't want to get into that really serious competition if you don't have to, but
Hmm.
sometimes you really have to because you're not going to be able to switch if you don't get it from the get-go.
Right.
But like you said, there are some majors that are just really difficult on a student athlete.
Okay.
Engineering,
Hmm.
nursing,
Hmm.
and I get a lot of athletes that say, I want to be a nursing major. I say, okay, then we have to really look for those schools that are
Yeah.
going to be willing to allow you to be a student athlete while being a nursing major. They have clinicals, they have all these
Right.
things that it really doesn't work easily.
Yeah. I had to change practice for a couple of nursing at Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah, yeah.
They had to come in at different times. Okay, so who submits their transcripts? So I know
So,
we know everybody has to register with the Eligibility Center, Division One, Two, or
yeah.
Three. Um, so yeah, how does that after they register, then who's submitting at I guess during their high school years, their grades, who's
Mhm.
submitting those, and then their transcripts in the end when they're all done with school and they're finishing touches on that. How does that work?
So typically you are going to request that from your high school counselor.
Hmm.
Some schools, it's the registrar,
Hmm.
some of the bigger high schools, but typically it's the high school counselor. You're going to want to touch base with them first. And there
Hmm.
are a couple of times that they want to see transcripts. So, like after that sixth semester of high school,
Hmm.
you're going to want to get a transcript submitted, things like that. But you really want to stay on top of it. Keep checking that eligibility center portal. Make
Hmm.
sure the check marks are getting checked off when they're supposed to be checked off because high school counselors are busy. They have
Yeah.
got so many students.
Hmm.
You are in the end responsible to make sure that's getting in as the
Hmm.
athlete. So make sure you're watching that. Make sure those each requirement is getting checked off. If not, stay in touch with your counselor because they're going to want to see it from your high school. Sometimes you can send it from a program like Parchment, but typically it's going to be your high school counselor. But for some kids who do a lot of online school, it
Hmm.
might be Parchment that sends that in where you can order it directly and have it sent over.
So what do you tell, this is a tricky one. What do you tell an athlete who you know is getting recruited to schools that might not be a good fit for them academically, but they aren't getting a lot of interest? Do you recommend that they still follow through with that university, even though you might think this is not going to be a good fit for this athlete? Or what are some things if it's not looking like the best fit for them, their academic desires or their level of academics, what are some things they can do to help themselves once they get to that university?
Yeah, that is a really tricky one. When we're in the process of talking through what schools we're looking at, I really ask a lot of questions about how rigorous they would like academics.
Mm-hmm.
That's a first question because that's not something they often think through. They'll think, oh, hey, some of these schools, like
Yeah.
say a Stanford, oh yeah, it's going to be hard, but they don't realize how hard, or maybe that it's going to be a school that's really a heavy writing and thinking school, yet they're very math oriented and maybe don't want to do all that writing and thinking.
Mm,
So those are things we really think through, but it is tough when you get to a school that is so rigorous that you're just trying to stay afloat while
yeah.
you're there.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, I tell all of my clients, let's find the right fit academically for you too, so that you're not just sink or swim.
Yeah.
In my own family, I have two very different students between my two daughters.
Mhm.
And so I got to learn, I've been through this process of getting my own kids into college and through sports and all these things in the last 6, 7 years with all my clients. And so I've learned a lot myself. And I find it really helpful if the students really understand, hey, I want it to be at the appropriate level for who I am as a student.
Mhm.
Um, but once you get there, it can be really tricky. And there are some things. Number one, this is kind of a funny one, but honest to goodness, watch Rate My Professor.
Mhm.
If you are taking science courses and that is not your strongest suit, go and check out how hard are some of these professors.
Mhm.
Maybe there is a easier course than
Mhm.
a harder course just because a professor, like in different
Oh, yeah.
sections, can be very different. That's honestly the simplest thing you can do. But using the tutors, using resources available to you on campus is really important, but do it early.
Yeah.
Do not wait until you get behind,
Mhm.
because once you're behind, it's really hard to catch up.
Yeah.
And grades on a team matter.
Mhm.
And
They do.
so, you want to be able to remain a student athlete. You don't
Mhm.
want to lose that eligibility in college. There are resources, find them and use them. Don't be
Mhm.
shy about it.
Very good.
And even for some students who have some learning challenges, there are great resources for them too.
Mhm.
My own daughter's very dyslexic, and she had such incredible resources at her school. It was never a problem because they really helped her out with that.
I love that.
So I would just say be at the forefront of advocating for yourself,
Mhm.
finding those resources, finding the tutors, using the team resources. But if your team doesn't have those, not all teams do,
Right.
search them out on your own.
Uh, in my daughter's cases, they went to colleges that probably weren't at the level of how many AP courses they took and how they prepared for college. So they went into the honors programs and
Yes.
loved it. And very challenging.
Yeah.
And the teachers teach a little differently and held their attention, and I think
Hmm.
that is a nice option at some of these state schools that might have bigger classroom sizes or students in the
Yes.
classroom and might be teaching to the middle
Yeah.
of the student. But you may be really wanting to go to that school for your sport. So you make the decision to go. Um, but we want you to also come away feeling like they challenged you at your level. So look into the honors
Yeah.
colleges. Those are very, very good. The other thing that happened in a conversation with one of the colleges in gymnastics that's very popular is a lot of these girls are now, if they had a red shirt year and now they've graduated in undergrad, and they're eligible, they still have one more year and they want to go on to compete somewhere else for their grad year, for grad school.
Hmm.
It's tricky because they don't go in the portal till the next few weeks. And they didn't
Yeah.
apply anywhere for grad school because they didn't know till now that they still want to compete. So
Right.
just to let people know out there, I've talked to several colleges because I have some girls that I'm working with on this. And you can apply to colleges sort of outside of the application timeline for grad school
Mhm.
to be an athlete. And some even
Yeah.
did it last year in the summer to some really strong academic schools. So don't panic if
Yes.
that's you and you need help, you're going to go in the portal and you want to do grad school. You can still get into some of these
Yeah.
schools kind of through a little backdoorish.
Yeah, and the other thing that is really interesting that I've seen a lot of students doing too, especially if they're at a school that maybe they would like a little more challenging. The thing is,
Hmm.
so many of my clients get wrapped up in the names of these schools
Yes.
and the rigor of the school, but you can find rigor at any university.
Hmm.
The other thing is research.
Hmm.
Joining a professor's research during college can be such an exciting thing. It doesn't have to take a ton of time. You can still do some of that while you're a student athlete.
Hmm.
And it's a great way just to expand, number one, your resume for the future,
Yes.
but also just dive into something deeper than you would in the classroom setting.
Oh, I like that. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've covered all the topics I wanted to. Is there anything else you'd like to add to the conversation that I might have missed?
I don't think so. The one thing that I would say to every student out there, colleges are looking for students who are curious.
Hmm.
I tell my students the number one thing you can be in high school is curious. And if you follow that curiosity and show that passion, it's going to get you so far, not only with coaches.
Hmm.
I have a client right now who's doing research at a UC in high school because she loves it.
Hmm.
She was talking to a coach at a very elite school, and while she wasn't maybe at their level,
Hmm.
this coach said, I'm really interested in your academics, but the fact that you're following that research already in high school.
Wow.
So follow those curiosities, be resilient, be passionate, be unique,
Unique.
and that's the ticket to getting into the schools you want to go to.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
probably something we wouldn't want to miss sharing because when they're competing for these spots, right, with their essays,
Hmm.
especially and writing those essays, it's the same
Yeah,
thing trying to get the attention of a coach. I was just on a call last night with a
absolutely.
client and she'd already written emails and not gotten responses. I asked her to tell me, well, what's in your email? What's in your subject line? And it was like,
Yeah,
no, thank you. As a coach, I get 30 a day. That would have been one I probably would have passed on. Just the subject line.
yeah,
People
yeah.
are now
What makes you different?
yeah, and with AI, I said to her, hey, just go to Chat GPT, put in your subject of what you want to talk about in that email, and ask it for a really fun, creative, eye-opening, subject line. There's some
Yeah,
really good ones. Of course, we don't want
yeah,
their emails to be written by AI because the coaches want
yeah,
to get to know them, not a computer or whatever that
exactly.
is.
Yeah.
But I think we do need to think outside of the box with the trends of our country and how it's where the ways that it's going, and find some creative, if it gets your creative juices going, and how you
Yeah.
communicate with coaches or how you write your emails. I think
Hmm.
coaches will respond just because
Yeah,
they don't want to open emails anymore. Most people don't. Yeah,
yeah,
statistics show
yeah,
emails are just not of interest. So
yeah.
we've got to think outside the box with admissions, essays, and just trying to get the attention of that college coach.
Yeah, and those intro emails to coaches. I tell
Mhm.
all of my clients, what can we put about you that's a little bit creative and makes them go, wow, this student athlete is a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're looking for that. And I also, one other thing that comes up a lot is I ask my clients, are you a leader on your team or are you more of a
Mhm.
quiet supporter?
Hmm.
Because, I don't want to say follower. It's not like none
No.
of our athletes are followers, but
Mm-mm.
sometimes they're a little more quiet supporters. And I tell them, not every athlete on a team can be a leader. If every athlete on
Yeah.
that team was
No.
a leader, It would be like headbutting
Yeah.
constantly. So I want you to be uniquely you, but let's
Hmm.
show them how you support the team or
Hmm.
how you back your friends up. Are
Hmm.
you making posts saying, congratulations to this friend on my team?
Yes.
Like, what are you doing that they go, you know what, this would be great for the atmosphere of our team. This is really unique personality
I love
or a
that.
really unique way that they think. So it's not just admissions, it's with those coaches too. How can you
Yeah.
be a little bit different?
I have the ear of these coaches a lot right now, and a lot of them are struggling with how to lead their teams. There are a lot of interesting things that happen now that they can speak on social media, the athletes,
Yeah.
and they can say things they think are the coaches aren't seeing, or there's just an attitude there about um, I don't know, respect and kind of coming underneath someone in general. And I just want to say, coaches are looking at those emails and they're looking for athletes who utilize those kind of words. This is
Yes.
how I respond to my coach in my gym right now, or this is what I'm looking for in a coach. So if you say something like, I'm looking for, and you never talk about what you're looking for in a coach or what are your goals for the team, then you can
Hmm.
actually come across kind of almost entitled and selfish without realizing.
Yeah.
Or maybe you are
Yeah.
entitled and selfish and you don't even realize that the coach is going, hey, they never talk about our team. They never bring up
Yeah.
anything about
Hmm.
what we're doing this year. It's
Yeah.
little things like that that these
It's
coaches
little
are
things.
evaluating, and it makes a
Hmm.
difference. So I would highly recommend you go to someone you respect and trust and go, look, you've known me for a long time. What are some things that you notice in me that would benefit a team? And then go home and write about it and say, you know
Yeah.
what? I talked to my coach or I talked to this person, and these are some topics that they see in me. These are things they see in me. That's a great way to talk about yourself, without
Yeah.
like sounding braggish or,
Yeah. And I think,
mhm,
this is those, especially the emails to the coaches, they are really PR. It's PR for yourself.
mhm,
You're your own brand when you're talking to these coaches and finding a way to get across that you are fun, you have enthusiasm, but you're also humble
yes.
and you care about your teammates and your coaches.
Mhm.
It's huge. It's just huge.
And they are looking for those types of athletes now because it's
Yep.
frightening how things can turn on a dime on a team
Yeah.
because honestly, just social media and what they're used to being able to say out loud. And that, you
Yeah.
know, it's a whole thing. And I think coaches are a little bit fearful of coaching anymore because things can change
Yeah.
for them so
Hmm.
quickly. So they're looking for kids that really are team oriented, that really are care about their coach and what they're saying and respecting them even when they might not agree. All those kinds of things, whether you can write them, in your essay somehow and the coach gets to read that, or you're writing it actually in your emails. I just want to do a shout out about that because I'm hearing that a lot from
Yeah.
coaches. Now they're looking more
Yeah.
at family, they're looking at your social media, they're looking at TikTok. You think they're not on TikTok? They are
Yeah.
all over.
Well, and you know what? Also, think about who are you following? They might
Who are
look at
you
who you're
following?
following. Who
Mhm.
are you following?
Yep.
And if you're following some things that are a little like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe we don't follow those things.
Right. And it's not
Yeah, and
judgment. It's not
yeah,
judgment.
I have a lot of
Mm-mm.
I have a lot of athletes who are a little bit quieter, maybe on the quieter end that
Hmm.
see those other athletes who are so bold with their personalities and get a lot of attention. And they always come in with kind of lacking in confidence in who they are. And I say, let me tell you something, the coaches are gonna love you.
Yeah.
And they have never heard that from anybody
Mhm.
because they see all the attention with social media and everything else going
Yeah.
towards, these really dynamic personalities,
Yeah,
and they don't understand how absolutely amazing a personality like theirs can be for a coach.
I love
And
that.
so that's one of my favorite things is when I get to tell one of my clients how much the coaches are gonna love them. And
Yeah,
they
true.
just are in shock. And I'm like, that's also what I love about you, that you're in shock. But no more being in shock. We're gonna be confident and we're gonna go in knowing that we bring the best of who we are to that team.
I love it. And I have to say, being a college coach, there were years where I was looking for more outgoing kids too. It's not,
Yeah.
we're not saying you
Yeah.
can't be out
Absolutely.
there, outgoing, have a lot
Yeah.
on social media. It's just how you do it and just
Hmm.
being aware of your
Yep.
perception because
Yeah.
it's all being judged, whether you're super shy or super outgoing.
Yeah.
And we
And
want,
teams need all
Mhm.
personalities. They need different personalities. It can't be all the same
No.
personality.
Mm-mm. So, all
And
right.
I
I
think so
love
many
this.
of my
Yeah,
clients forget that. They
I
forget
know.
that. So many of them, they think, I'm not the personality they're going to want. I'm quiet or whatever. No, they need those really enthusiastic girls and they need the girls who are going to be behind those girls supporting everybody.
Right. Right. That's so true. All right,
Yeah.
everybody. I'm excited about this topic. I hope it's been practical and I hope it helps you understand a little bit more about admissions, about being an athlete, about your guidance counselors currently, all those different pieces, I think
Mhm.
become we just don't want you to get down the road too far and you can't go back and fix things, especially academically in high school. So be aware. A lot of this is on the NCAA website. There's a lot of details about the 16 core course requirements and just all the things that NCAA requires with your GPA. And most people do a great job. Most athletes are very aware. Most parents are all over these topics. So we hope that this just kind of brings you a little added, information to help you feel confident and knowing that you're moving in the right direction.